Cool, I'm ready to get rolling. My name is Aaron Rhodes, and you're listening to the Shuttlecock Podcast. We're sponsored by the Vinyl Underground at 7th Heaven, offering new and used vinyl at 76 and Truce in Kansas City, Missouri. Today on the show, we have Unique 16. How you doing?
What's up? Yeah, I'm good. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah, been chilling, working on some projects.
No, yeah, I feel like it's overdue that we have you on here, though, because I don't know, you've been working pretty consistently the last few years, and I'm surprised I haven't seen like more interviews of yours and everything, so I'm excited to get to be a little early on it.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Of course. So I know that you have a background in poetry. You've been doing that since, like, did you start during high school?
Yeah, my junior year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I've always written poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but as a career, it started in high school.
Okay. And I think I watched the Day in the Office video that you did with the Project Lane guys with Juby.
Yeah.
And you said that I think in that video you said you started doing poetry to like practice as a rapper. Is that right?
Yeah, so I used to make raps in my friend's like living room on his laptop, and I was like, I wanted to be better, and the only route I seen was to start like studying creative writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and auditioned, and it took me a while to get into the school because I never really took the creative writing aspect of it serious. I'm just like, man, everybody get into Paseo. So I bullshitted my thing, and the teacher rejected me my first time. So then after that, it made me really have to go and try. So after I really did want to try, I got in, and me and him had this whole like fight for the first 2 weeks about like me writing poetry. And I'm like, nah, I should be able to write raps. I think rap is poetry. And he like, nah, it's not the same. And he eventually showed me this man named Saul Williams, who is now my mentor. Excuse me. And it was like this, it blew my mind. And like this shit was like something that I feel like in my heart I always wanted to do, but I never knew it was a name for it. Mm-hmm. So since then, I just writing poetry just came second nature to me.
What did you change about your approach, like in between like the auditions that you had to do to get into Paseo?
I took it serious. Mm-hmm. Like the first time I wasn't really taking it serious. I really didn't see that. I didn't see it as a reflection of myself. I seen it as just something they needed to like a placement, you know. But then after I realized that it's an audition, like I gotta take it serious, it was easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you said Saul Williams is a mentor of yours? Is he someone that you're in touch with?
Yeah, like
he's a pretty big deal among like a lot of kind of poetry and hip hop circles.
He got into it with Jay-Z. Like that blew my mind. Like the fact that somebody I know has a direct line of communication with Jay-Z is just like mind blowing.
But what do you guys talk about? Do you like email or what do you?
Twitter.
Twitter.
Yeah. He actually was friends with George Watsky, and me and George Watsky are closer. But George Watsky put me into in contact with Saul Williams.
Mm.
Yeah.
How would you met Watsky at first?
He caught one of my videos I did for L-Tab. I did this poem called Unique, and he seen that one. He flew me out to California and paid the YouTube studios to do a video for it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty fun, and ever since then, he like come do Kutch. He let me stay with him if I ever got to travel.
Awesome. No, and I know once you were doing the like spoken word, like was it like spoken word or slam poetry that you were doing?
It's both. Slam poetry and spoken word is the same thing. I feel. Okay. You would describe it as slam when you competing, and I quit competing a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's still the same thing.
Yeah. So when you were doing that in high school, you were traveling for competitions and stuff, right? Because you did the Brave New Voices and Louder Than a Bomb.
Yes.
Right. No, yeah. What did you just going to those for the first time? Kind of like what were those experiences?
That was my first time just being out of the city in general. Like I ain't never traveled before then, and just meeting new people was just so crazy. Like seeing people from all different cultures, because BNV is like international. It's like people from Paris, people from Uganda, like so many other places come all for the love of poetry, and to just see so many like different people coming and like meeting them and see how they move. It put a real perspective on like, man, this could be something that I could bring back to the city, which I feel like I did accomplish in a bit. You know, like the diversity to show people that like how that art could be so like submersive is the word I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, B&V really did teach me like how a community can be so big but yet so small. Like poetry to me was like something that I didn't feel like a lot of people really engaged on. But going to B&V and seeing like so many people from so many different walks of life do it really encouraged me to like keep going.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it makes it really easy to like meet new people that you like have like this instant connection with, and it's kind of like going to any type of like specific type of festival is like.
It's like a con, like Comic Con or
yeah.
For poetry. But Waski was really big into Brave New Voices too, so that's kind of how we clicked.
Nice. No, and I know maybe you weren't in the same year or like going at the same time, but Solomon also did the Brave New Voices.
Coach.
Yeah, you were the coach.
Yeah, after I aged out, I became a coach, and he was on the team that I took.
Mm. What was some of the early Solomon material and the under your coaching, like how do you kind of change?
I actually met Jerry as a recruitment for Basel. Then we used to do these things where we'd go to middle schools and recruit. So I went up there and I did a poem, and then Jerry came up to me and like, yo man, I really want to write poetry. So I met him way before that. We grew up a little bit, and then at first I was competing against him. But once I aged out, I created my own team, and he joined it. And it was still the same. Like Jerry just got a gift to him. Like whatever it was back then, he still got it, and it's just growing and manifesting. I could say that it was more colorful back then. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I did the pitch article on the Song Solomon album,
yeah,
and I remember like, yeah, he has like just the X factor is kind of like what I called it, and like you can't really like pin down like how he really works and like comes up with what he does, but it always seems to kind of just shake out for yeah. Oh yeah, and I remember him saying during the interview for that piece that he was like inspired by like seeing you do the TEDx video and like all of the work that you'd done. So how did it make you feel to like be able to like create such like an immediate impact on like the people you were working with?
Man, that's why I really like in my heart. I'm like, if I God forbid if I die today, I feel like I have submitted a legacy. You know, because before me, like if it wasn't for me, I feel like a lot of people would just be like gangsters. But when what I brought was like a different like way to be like to the, like everybody, like to see Jerry, to see Westside, to see like N.A. S.A. Hellboy, like a lot of them look up to me, and I feel like my passion for art kind of seeped into them, so it didn't keep them on the streets. Like they never thought that it was what they had to do, because they seen that I brought something different.
That's cool to see you you're overlooking the No Alternatives crew. You're like maybe not an official member, but maybe an honorary member of that.
Yeah, I put them the way No Alternatives got started. I used to do this thing called Front Porch Alliance. It was a non-for-profit, and I used to work for them in the garden. And I did so much work for them. It was like, hey, I know you like music. Would you like to build a studio here? So they built a studio for me, and they created this program where they bring kids in, and they all work on a project for about 6 months, and they pay them. I told Jerry and them like, yo, y'all should go do that, and that's where they created No Alternatives.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And something you mentioned that you're not currently really involved with the poetry stuff.
The competing part of
competing.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your current like interaction with the poetry community really like?
So I just got off a tour with this professor from I forgot Northwest, but you know Apex, you know Jared. He make a lot of art.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he introduced me to his professor, and his professor took me on a tour. He did graphic design, and I would write poems for him. So I did a museum tour. So I would go to different museums and perform for them. So little stuff like that. And I teach. Like I go to colleges and do a workshop or two, or like elementary schools. I've done churches sometimes too.
Nice. Where'd you go on the museum tour?
A lot of places: Atlanta, Chicago, LA, Philadelphia. It was a multitude of places.
And how different, like, how would you say that getting to do the museum tour and like these kind of workshops and stuff is really different than like being in the competitions and traveling for that? Are you kind of more at ease? Is it?
I'm definitely at ease. Like when it comes to poetry, like and competing in poetry, how could you really score something that's so personal to somebody? Like I really like the art of what poetry is. You know, like I like metaphors, I like alliteration and shit like that. And that's what I like. I do poetry for. But some people do poetry to be like, hey, like this was something traumatic that happened to me. So I don't really like putting my art up against it. I don't want to never have to judge somebody's like a rape story and like give them like a 9 or a 8. Yeah, that it's just something that I'm not comfortable doing.
Yeah, stuff.
Yeah.
No, and you kind of like, it's kind of funny because like if I feel like following like pop music and hip hop music like just online and like following artists and like management and people, like you always do see people talking about like, oh, we went gold, or like, oh, we made this chart placement in the first week, and you're always kind of like, oh yeah, I'm excited for these people.
Right.
But it's kind of easy to get kind of just sucked into the just caring about the numbers before a lot of the art, and you kind of have to like check yourself every once in a while. I feel like at least personally, and just be like, oh wait, this doesn't matter quite as much as everyone thinks it does.
Yeah.
So did you ever find yourself like coming close to feeling like that, or
yeah, that's what Kurt is about.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Kurt is about 100%. That is dealing with the ideal of consumerism, and I believe that as in my heart that I have a gift, you know, and like I battle with like if God did give me this gift, is it my job to like is it my job to change it so that it'll be more easy to reach people?
Yeah.
Or can I just make this art for me, you know?
Yeah.
Like I know times is gonna change, so should my art change with the times? Like should my subject matter change with things to reach people? Is it my obligation to like reach people with my art? And that's something I battle with a lot.
Oh yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions about it, because like it does kind of go from like jazz inspired rap to like kind of pop rap to kind of like a cloud, or like a cloud rap type thing, and I'm like, oh, do you ever, I was gonna ask like, yeah, do you ever worry about like which way you take it sonically and like who you reach because of that? So yeah, it sounds like you put a lot of thought into that already.
Yeah, my goal is to try to reach everybody. Like yeah, I want to be able to give something for everybody to come here and be like, yeah, I like this. Yeah.
No, and there are a lot of. No, yeah, I was kind of curious about this too. Like you mentioned, like you have all of these opportunities because of your poetry work right now, that you're getting to travel and do these workshops and everything. And like I don't know a whole lot about that whole world, but I was kind of curious. Like, are there like less opportunities out there for like spoken word poets like after you graduate high school? Because I feel like a lot of the like infrastructure and funding is like, from what I can tell, like focused on like the high school kids, which is important, but like I feel like there may not be much path forward for like people once they age out of that. Is that right at all?
I feel that in a way, but it's like any career field. Like you gotta bring the best to the table. There are opportunities out there. There's a lot of things that people do require poetry for, but I get that too. When it's something I ain't really deal with on either, because I ain't really had to face it. But the more it will come one day where I gotta ask. But I do know people who are like in their late 60s who've only ever done this.
Yeah, they're like involved in judging and like other like competitive workshops and stuff.
It's more like writing books and making sure, you know, just more like an artist. Like it's a more mature art form, and the career is more mature. Like to go ahead and do stuff like at Black History museums and things of that nature. It's really about your market.
Okay, and yeah, to get into some of the music you've been releasing, like it's like you listen to like one or two of the projects you have out, and it's you work a lot with references of like God and the devil and the Bible and all that type of stuff. So I'm kind of curious what your like experience with religion like growing up was, and how that's kind of changed over the years.
Man, I should be more prepared to answer this question because it's kind of all my life has been about. But I'm kind of going through a change right now in it, so I'm not really sure where I am now. But where it began, I could say when I was adopted. So my stepmom, she used to like make us go to church, and that just made me resent it so much. Like I resented church like to the fullest. And then after I left her house, then something in me was like, man, I just want to know. So I linked up. I went and found a church, and I went to talk to the pastor, and I asked the pastor, I was like, hey, yo, would it be okay if you taught me every religion, like not just Christianity? And he was like, yeah, I'm down to do that. So he would give me books and stuff to read, and I really like fed my hunger for religion. And I'm real spiritual. Like I believe in God. Like I feel like God is real, but I still wanted to know like a rubric. Like I wanted to see what people had to say about him. And that's kind of my beginning of religion.
How old were you when you were asking for all these books on the religions?
I was probably 14, 15. Yeah.
And what was there like any? I don't know. Like, did you just kind of like take it all in very like gradually and kind of analytically, or like did you find yourself like drawn to like other religions that you didn't know much about or stuff like that? Like, what was that process kind of like for you?
I was really kind of feeling the church for a while. I ain't gonna lie. Like the thing that pushed me away from the church was the pastor. Like once I started wanting to be more of myself, he was like, nah. You know, he started being shady. So that really pushed me away. But it was one question it was a passage in the Bible I read one time. It was like, God, my Father, why have you forsaken me? And I was just like, man, this is like don't make sense. Depending on what Christianity preaches, like why would Jesus ever say that? And that I wanted to go figure that out. So I went through so many churches and so many people just to find out what that one scripture meant. And a lot of my art comes from just that one line of why God said it. Said that on the cross, or Jesus, depending on what you believe in.
And so you said that you are kind of still like in this area of kind of trying to just figure it out for yourself, and it sounds like you are kind of just working through it in your music sometimes. And
I'm thinking about joining the Nation of Islam. Yeah, that's kind of where my heart is right now. Yeah, I ain't know if I wanted to put it on record or not, but that's what I've been feeling lately.
What makes you interested in that?
It's just certain stuff that's happened in my life that I'm like, be weird coincidences. Like at B&B, I met a girl who was Muslim, and everything she said was just so beautiful, and it was like, I was like, wow, like this is something I could be a part of. But then recently, I started reading this book by Elijah Muhammad called The Message to the Black Man in America, and it drew me in. Like everything he was saying was just like clicking. I'm like, yeah, I feel this. But when I was reading that book, I started reading it. Like that day, 4 of my friends who are Muslim hit me up like, hey, for some reason I'm thinking about you. And I was just like, dang, like that's a weird coincidence. So that night, I was laying down and I was reading the book about Elijah Muhammad, and I was getting ready to go to bed. I said, dang, I should try to pray to Allah one time for the first time in my life. And as I lay down, I may have been in the middle of going to sleep, so I might have just seeped into a dream. But I remember closing my eyes and praying, and it was just this bright light in my head, like in my eyelids. And I get this message like, from now on, you would never see darkness ever again. I'm just like, wow, like that was like really like crazy to me.
Yeah.
So that's drawing me in, and I just be making these little hints like, hey, if this happened, I'll convert to Islam, and it'll happen like every time. So I'm like, man, I'm gonna really give it a chance.
Oh yeah, and you do kind of have like an interest or a fascination, it seems like, with like kind of like just finding like signals and like, because you talked about in that other video you're talking about the 16 in your stage name, and how that just kind of came from like a series of like you seeing that number of different places and just kind of like coincidences, or I don't know, is that like, I don't know, like a fate or a destiny, or is that all stuff that you kind of find interesting and run into sometimes?
The number 16 has been, like when I played football, 16 was my number, and 32 was my number one time, and like number 6 has always been prevalent in my life. But 16 was the last number I did, and I remember that 16 was like where I was at the peak of my football career too. So I kept that in mind. Joey Origami, you know, he made a song called 16 Candles, and that song really was the first song I heard that wasn't, growing up I only listened to local Kansas City music, so it was like Two Gun Kiwi, Ron Ron, TV. So that's all I thought music was for real, you know. But then seeing Joey do 16 Candles, he talked about a lot of stuff that I liked, like Johnny Bravo and like cartoons, and that was the first time I realized that, dang, I can make music about me. And so it was that. Then my mama's birthday was at 16. My first real relationship happened on the 16th, you know. So I'm like, man, that's a sign. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and plus, I got this weird thing with numbers, like numerology is like prevalent in my life. So the number 7 stands for imperfection, they say, and 6 is imperfection. So I felt like if I put that 1 next to the 6, that it is me saying that I'm not perfect, but I'm working towards perfection, you know?
Yeah.
Like always.
Oh yeah, and no, yeah, and that does kind of like the perfection and imperfection, like a theme in a lot of your stuff too. Also, is like the duality. It kind of seems like, right. You know, there's of course like God and the devil, but then there's, you know, this perfect and imperfect, and then I don't think they're online anymore, but you had the 2 EPs, Pray and Pray, spelled with the E and the A.
Yeah.
So like, does that kind of play into all of this stuff too? Just like your interest in duality of just different subjects? I don't know.
Yeah,
ask that.
I like to be a perfect balance. Always try to, so to make the to be the commentary for good and bad from a really balanced point of view is something that I'm interested in. Mm. And I always like to paint. It's really easy for me to do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so you released a couple EPs, I think late last year, mm-hmm. Kurt and For the Culture. Yeah. And no, I just realized the other day when I was re-listening to it that the title track on Kurt, is it sampling like a cartoon mm-hmm. adaptation of like a Mark Twain story?
Yeah.
Yeah, what made you want to use that? Is it just like a Missouri thing, or?
Nah, it's crazy that Mark Twain from Missouri, because I just learned that, but Mark Twain has been one of my favorite writers. Yeah. He wrote this from that line. It was called The Stranger, right?
Yeah, The Mysterious Stranger.
The Mysterious Stranger, yeah, and like I love that book. It's one of the first books I ever read. So I'm like in that line, and in the beginning of the song, it really does like go with the song. Yeah, so I'm like, and I love Mark Twain.
Yeah, what do you like most about Mark Twain, or like that story in specific? What do you remember about that?
It was cool to write it, to hear God talked about in a way that wasn't from somebody who was religious. That was the first time I really seen a commentary on God from somebody who ain't like love God or I hate God. It was just like to see him talk about Satan in a way that he did was like really amazing.
Yeah, kind of an impartial take, and
yeah,
everyone who, I mean. Yeah, everyone, like a lot of religious people, like are very concerned with like making sure that, you know, you think what they do and
right.
kind of preaching to you. So yeah, I guess it is. I remember like as a teenager, just like getting super excited, just like finding all of this like atheist literature and like just all these like debates online and stuff. That was like, you know, of course it gets kind of dorky after a certain point, because you're like, no, you can't prove there's no God, right. But like it is kind of fun to think about in those first few times that you come across that stuff.
It was these letters in his philosophy book I read called Letters from Satan that Mark Twain wrote, and it was just one of the most beautiful shit I ever seen.
Mm. Oh, I should go find those. Yeah, I remember really enjoying, like, more so than most like high school literature, like the Mark Twain and the Huck Finn stuff. Like,
right.
It was always like nothing else that you were being assigned in high school like was actually funny to read, or like super entertaining, at least to me. Like, so yeah, I did kind of gravitate towards.
I like Lord of the Flies a lot. Lord of the Flies was pretty cool. Brave New World.
Yeah, Lord of the Flies is cool, just kind of because like just kind of because how gruesome I think some of it was. Like oh, this is some real shit, but my teachers telling me to read it. Cool. But No, yeah. No, and you kind of allude to Kurt Cobain, I think, a couple times on the EP too. I'm guessing that's who it's named after.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of interests you in, like, and there's the song Forever 27 on, I think,
For the Culture.
On the other EP. So what interests you in Kurt Cobain and the 27 Club and all that?
I think that that I read this book called Set the Shotgun to the Head by Saul Williams, and at the beginning it's this quote that said, "The man who finds himself," I gotta have the quote right, but it's about Kurt Cobain's, and I never knew it though, but my life came together so much I started learning about him, and I think that Kurt Cobain is really like consumer when dealing with the idea of consumerism. I think that he was a perfect embodiment of what it could do to you. Yeah, and that's why I picked him to do that. And plus, it's like a kind of a wordplay because I wanted so when I thought of Kurt, I was sitting in my room and I was dealing with the idea of consumerism. I had dropped God Is on His Way, and I loved it, right? But it didn't get as much. I didn't see it mainstream, and I never want to be the one to like make things for mainstream. So then I was sitting there thinking like, dang, how could I, like get more people to like this? And then I thought, and like, dang, like what type of person would want to be the king of this world,
Yeah.
Like, or I even thought higher, like what kind of God would want to be the God of our world? Like if there was like a congregation of gods and one of them had to represent us, which one would be happy to be ours? And I'm like, it had to be like an evil one. So in a way, I'm thinking like, dang, and I remember the evil shall inherit the earth, and I'm thinking like, dang, so what, something that I kind of battle with that I could use to relate, to keep people in and hear my message, but also still spread light and like love. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Like my life has been like a lot of drug use and like a lot of addiction based. So I'm like, yeah, I could use my my plights with addiction to get people in, to get them to start watching, so that I can also bring in the light that I will and love I want to like teach people. And Kurt Cobain's was kind of the Forever 27 Club is really a big thing with addiction. So I'm like, yeah, that's really a good like mark that I could.
No, yeah, it kind of instantly kind of connects with people just because of like they either like his music or are interested in like his kind of lifestyle and drug use and all that stuff, and like just since he is already such like a popular kind of icon within hip hop right now, everyone's talking about being rock stars and that stuff. So yeah, I'm sure it's kind of easy to pull people in when you kind of start somewhere where they already have an interest.
Right, and when I say like I want to go like Kurt Cobain's, it's really just a play. It's like because he found Nirvana before he died, and that's kind of still playing the duality. Like people think like, oh, like damn, that song kind of dark. Like I want to go like Kurt Cobain's on Kurt, but I'm really saying that I want to find Nirvana before like I die, like he did.
Okay, something I wanted to ask about as well is like I'll see you like post flyers and stuff every once in a while, but it seems like you don't perform out as much as like a lot of other people kind of in Kansas City's music scene. I was curious if that was like a decision on your part or if you're just not like getting asked to be on as many shows.
I usually take every show that people offer me, but after a while I stopped wanting to do free stuff. To be honest, like I've been doing free stuff for so long, and in the moment I'm like, yeah, I should be compensated for it. People start looking at me like I'm jaded or something. So I'm like, I want to be my worth. Like this is like something that I feel is of value. So then I want to, and so paid shows are hard to come by, but every now and then I do a free one just because I want to have fun.
Yeah. Oh, and you rapped about it in your freestyle on the Day in the Office video, but you bring up the First Friday stuff that happened last year. You know, there's the shooting there, and they're kind of restructuring the way First Fridays are going to work this year. I was just kind of curious, like, because you'd performed at least one or two First Friday events before. Like, how do you feel about it? Like, as just kind of a Kansas City artist right now, like, where are you, like, just kind of.
I think that when there's always something bad that could possibly happen, but before all of that happened with the shooting and stuff, the more it became urban, the more I seen art kids, and people that I knew that were artists, like, it just got ratchet and stuff like that. And I'm like, what y'all really saying is it got black, and y'all don't like it no more. So that was really what I was talking on. But right now, I don't know. I wish, like, my dream is to see that there's a place for art kids and urban kids to come together and have fun, but it's just so many variables there that it seemed like almost impossible.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
And you mentioned in that video also that you'd been working on projects with both Westside and Kai. Are both of those still happening?
The one with me and Kai been on the hope for a minute. We just ain't really been talking about it. But the one with Westside that's coming like pretty soon. It's called 316. The cover of it came out like a week ago.
Hey, what's going on that project? Like,
it's about the end of the world, like, and we just giving our view of it. Like, we painting our observation of us literally feeling like we are in the end times.
Oh, that'll be exciting. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
And the tape, not the end of the world.
I'm excited for both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See what happens. Are you working on any other projects right now, or do you have shows coming up, or what's happening with you?
I'm working on the 13th floor. I'm always gonna be working on that. It seems like that's my J Electronica. Me and Nate are talking about doing a play about the 13th floor. We talking about doing a comic about the 316 tape that me and Dre doing. And I'm working on music too, and I want to write another book. Cause I published a book, so I want to write another one.
As well, what was the book? When did that come out?
It came out 2016, I think. Yeah, I sold out of them too, so I'm really proud about that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, is that all poetry work? Or?
All poetry, yeah.
Nice. And what the next one will be? More poetry stuff?
Yeah. It'll be. I might do an audio tape of poetry too. I'm not really sure yet.
Nice. Yeah, I know you've posted a couple clips on SoundCloud of you doing the spoken word stuff and kind of put some effects and like backing music on those. Those are cool to listen to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really want to do more of that. Like, it's so much fun doing it.
Yeah, do you have anything you want to plug? Like, where can people find your music and your social media?
Any streaming service you can find me, Spotify, Apple Music. I don't really get it on SoundCloud, but I've been meaning to do that for people. I just don't like seeing numbers so much, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be too much of a capitalist.
Oh yeah, so you have the Kurt EP and the For the Culture EPs out on, I think, Apple and Spotify and YouTube and everything?
Yeah, I got one that should have been out already, but my manager wanted to do something with it. It's called Drug. And I had dropped that for a while, but then I took it down to do some more stuff to it. So that will be out in probably the next 2 weeks.
Cool. No, and what's your handle on Twitter and Instagram and everything?
Unique XVI.
Sweet.
No minimum was for 16.
Awesome. And people can follow at Shuttlecock Mag on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Visit shuttlecockmag.bigcartel.com. That's the web store. Shuttlecockmusic.com for all the articles. Check out the Facebook events tab for all the shows we have booked coming up. And yeah, I appreciate you being on the show today.
I appreciate you for asking me. Yeah.